Mary, you have Parkinson's.
Yep.
And how long have you had Parkinson's?
I was diagnosed about a year ago, but I probably had it earlier. Just took them a long time to figure out what.
Sure.
What's going on? Yeah. So Bob, did you want to say something to start with?
Yeah. So I know your first physical symptoms appeared about a year ago, Mary, and those symptoms manifested themselves how? Was it a tremor? Was it a change in your gait and the way you walked? Some stiffness?
Actually, during COVID, I was golfing, and I'm a pretty good golfer. I mean, I'm not a great golfer, but I hit the ball straight and I had a really nice swing. And I actually correct other people, and they were really appreciative of it. And all of a sudden, I was hitting the ball and it wasn't going anywhere. And at one point, getting frustrated, I said, I'm hitting the ball and it's like I have no strength. And little did I know I didn't have any strength, because my left side of my body turned out to be kind of paralyzed. But the thing is, I was walking during COVID. You know, it seems to me the brain is a strange thing. If you do ordinary things you already do, you don't realize it. But then I went to water aerobics when they first opened up. Water aerobics started in April. No, in October, April. And the first class I went to, I was using my water weights, and I had no strength to keep them down. So the water weights were pushing me up and turning me upside down. I thought I was going to drown. And then I got out of the pool. I said to my instructor, I said, there's something very wrong. There's something wrong with my leg and my hands. So I looked down and I tried to move my foot, and I couldn't move my foot. I mean, I got kind of panicky. She suffers from that disorder from your back, sciatica. And she said to me, don't worry about it. She says, you'll be all right. And I said, well, what am I going to do? And she goes, well, keep doing what you do, because I go to water aerobics and I go golfing, and I go to exercise classes.
Have you always been very active, Mary? Have you always?
Well, yeah, I play ladies soccer.
So I can see you doing that. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you that the exercise in your past has really been a saving grace for you, probably because these symptoms would have manifested themselves, I think, much worse than where you're at right now. And Tammy and I have discussed this many times, the power of exercise. And I could cite example after example of people that were in very good physical shape and have journeyed through Parkinson's relatively smoothly because of the benefit of that exercise provides them. Now, I understand also that they put you on a medication. Which medication have they prescribed?
This is the first time I got to see a neurologist to start with. It took me like 8 months to get to see a neurologist.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he talked to me and he said, what was my goal? I said, my goal is to live the life I'm living. I want to maintain my life. I want to get back to where I was. And he gave me the levodopa.
Great. I love it.
But I took it, and the first day I took it, it made me so sick. I was throwing up, and I took it again, the same thing. And I mean, I took it again the next day, and I said, well, if I have to be sick all the time, I'm not taking this, because I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to have this controlling me. But then I thought about the links that she had sent me, and I didn't have time to look at them at the time. So I decided to open up the link, and right away you're talking about levodopa and the things you said about it. You said, make sure you took 2 glasses of water and eat some crackers. And so the next morning I got up and I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the medicine. I'm going to drink a whole glass of water. And then I sat in my chair and I got some crackers and I drank another glass of water with my crackers. And lo and behold, I didn't get dizzy, and I didn't get sick. And it does make me a little bit tired. I find makes me a little bit sleepy.
And how many times a day are you taking that?
3 times a day in the morning. I mean, 3 morning before meals. He wants me to take the medicine on an empty stomach, but I can't always do that.
Okay. And that's what I advocate all the time. I try to tell patients all the time, look, try to practice taking your levodopa on an empty stomach. That's not always possible. That's, ideal. Some patients can do it. It does not bother them at all. Other patients need, like you said, a little bit of food, which is fine. But the food selection is pretty critical. We'd like you to avoid proteins while you at that time, or a high fat meal. Although you don't strike me as someone that has a high fat meal at any point in
No,
time.
no, I kind of like my fruit
It's
and
really
vegetables.
probably not going to be an issue, but protein is an issue. So if you're going to meal up around levodopa time, keep it simple. A carbohydrate meal is probably best, like you've been doing, some saltines, some crackers, some black coffee, something like that to have, and that will help diminish the chance of nausea. But I
But
tell everyone,
I liked also the things you said about that this drug is always the same. It will always help you the same way. That was very instructive to me.
it doesn't change. It always works, Mary. It never not work. What happens is the disease progresses over time. So what patients mistakenly think that, oh, my levodopa is not working anymore. The doctor had to change my dose. No, that's not the case. The levodopa always works, but the brain has changed, unfortunately. So you may see a higher dose, but what will happen is the proof of the pudding is when we increase that dose, all those symptoms disappear like they did at the lower dose. So that's proof that the medicine is working. Unfortunately, as the years go by, things change and they have to adjust that dose. But I tell patients all the time, I say, look, don't forestall or put off, avoid taking your levodopa to the point where you have now allowed your motor symptoms to get in the way of what you want or need to do, because it doesn't have to be that way. The levodopa will get you to the point where you can function and exercise and do what you need to do. It's a wonderful drug. Is it the panacea for all that's wrong with Parkinson's? No, not at all. It has its own host of problems as the years progress. But you're so far removed from those problems right now that you're really reaping the best benefit you're ever going to get from the levodopa. You can go on years like this without any change whatsoever, especially that you've incorporated exercise into that regimen. You know, Tammy and I talk all the time about this, and one of the best mantras is that exercise is medicine. It's part of your regimen, and don't skip a dose. You wouldn't skip a dose if you
No,
leave
I
it.
don't, because to me, I said to my husband, this is like the icing on the cake. I started with physical therapy, and then I got voice therapy, and in voice therapy, they said, you have to breathe. And
Yes.
I realized it's a whole package. And the levodopa sort of smooths everything off. And it's been
You're
wonderful. I really
you're an
feel that.
inspiration, Mary, and a love. I wish every patient out there had the same forethought that you did, because, and you're absolutely correct. You know, Parkinson's is a multidisciplinary disease. There are many tentacles that Parkinson's has. Speech therapy is absolutely essential. We need to get these muscles here working all the time, because that helps the swallowing. Some patients, you'll see they have a slight drool, and mistakenly they think that their Parkinson's is creating more saliva. And that's not the case. There's no more saliva. It's just that you're not swallowing at the same amount that you used to swallow. So that saliva just builds up. And then you add to that a little bit of change in posture where you're leaning forward, and then things kind of seep out of the corner of the mouth. And that's what happens. And that's the power of getting those facial muscles and the vocal cords very strong, because you're not going to need them right now. I can listen to just the way you speak right now. You have nice, strong, powerful voice. There's no facial masking. You look terrific.
I
But
sang in a chorus, and then I was going to leave because I couldn't get my low notes down. And I said, I can't continue like this. So I went to the voice teacher and I told her that. She goes, do not do that. Singing is the best thing you can do for yourself. And I'm
absolutely.
telling you, I'm singing so much better. It's incredible to me. It's like a miracle.
Yeah. And you'll see, and that's, again, one of the beauties of levodopa, where it allows you to do this. And the fact is that you do need to do it, because it's what we call prehabilitating those muscles rather than rehabilitating them. So if we can get them in good shape, and that's what Tammy does, that's her end of the deal. She's there to ensure that all those muscles stay nice and strong, so that when the time comes that they may be affected by the Parkinson's, they'll be affected far less, maybe not even at all, depending upon how strong they are. And every patient is different. But the fact is that the earlier that you can prevent these things, the better off you are. And occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, all of these things are so critical. Speak to a dietitian, make sure your dietary habits are correct if you need to be. Make sure that a lot of people, I say, avoid protein when you're taking levodopa. I don't mean to not consume protein. You have to have that because your caloric content is going to drop, and you need that in order to keep up with Tammy. So I need you to make sure you have the right amount of calories, but at the same time, they have to be very selective in when you take them. So don't misunderstand when I say avoid protein with your levodopa. I don't mean to eliminate it from your diet. It's essential that you have that. But
I think you were quite clear in both the video and now that it's the spacing out is important. That hasn't been.
So far, I have to say, Tammy, she's great. I mean, I wish everybody had such a grasp on what needs to get done. I really do.
Yeah, well, Mary, definitely, she's a fighter. So she wasn't going to let this thing take her down. She's going to take it down. Mary's one of these people that, and then she's so good about sharing information. So our last time together as a group, there's some gentlemen in our group who are losing their voices, and she's like, guys, you don't have to lose your voices, so an advocate of getting everybody the same, understanding the same thing she's learned quickly on so that she could continue to get stronger.
I went to the voice teacher and I told my doctor, my voice isn't right and I want to get voice therapy. He said, no, your voice is all right. And I said, it isn't, because sometimes I can speak and sometimes I can't. I said, I know something is wrong. And the voice teacher told me the same thing you told me.
Yeah.
You want to get there before you lose your voice.
Yes. Yeah. Because you know what? It's a very slippery slope, Mary. As the voice begins to diminish and we lose those muscles and those vocal cord muscles, it's very hard to go back up that slope to rebuild them. They become paper thin. It's very hard to build them up again. It's not like your biceps where you can just lift weights or whatever. We don't have that. There are other, special exercises that they do, and it's difficult to regain it once you lose it. So if you can prevent from ever losing it, and I'll tell you a very important factor is that one of the leading causes of hospitalizations for Parkinson's patients is aspiration pneumonia, where you swallow things that they go down the wrong pipe, so to speak. And that's because these patients become dysphagic. They have difficulty in swallowing because those muscles are not strong. And then what happens is they end up in the hospital with pneumonia because of that. They've swallowed either saliva or food that they don't have the cough reflex to bring it back up again. And it's very common, but we can easily prevent that by doing what you are doing and, following Tammy's instructions. As far as sometimes you don't realize what the instructor is doing, but some of those things that you're doing in the classroom are kind of built in to get all those muscles, and they don't really have the
my
time.
hand. I go punch her in the punching bag, and I go to drive my golf cart. I realize my hand doesn't hurt anymore. I said, how can you go punching things and it makes your hand not hurt?
Yeah,
But it works.
I know. It's all their little secrets and tricks that they have, but they pay off in the long run. It's an investment, and it's a long-term investment. But I'll tell you, science has shown time and time again the power of exercise and strength. And then for any of us, of course, that's important, but it's even more important with Parkinson's because it is a movement disorder, and every part of your body, from the top of your head to your toes, are affected by it if you let it. And by staying ahead of the game, you're so far advanced, you don't even realize how easier the journey through this is going to become. And there are other medications. When issues come up, keep a good open relationship with your neurologist. Make sure you're telling him even the slightest things. If you're getting dizzy, if you're going from a sitting to a standing position and you find yourself getting a little lightheaded sometimes, those are the kinds of side effects you need to report to them, because they're indications that we need to tweak that dose somewhat. If you're sleeping bad, if you're having hallucinations, or you get sleep fragmentation where you're asleep for a little bit, then you wake up and you go back to sleep and you wake up. Or if you're waking up in the morning in an off state and it's getting harder and harder in the mornings to get your day started. These are the things that you can speak to your neurologist about, because they can change the dosing or add long-acting things on so that you wake up in an on state and you can get out of bed and get that day started. So many patients start their day off in their off state, and it takes them a half an hour, 45 minutes just to even get the day started.
I'm going to name drop here. I started going to, I'm here in the villages where there's so much, and I started to go to these classes with Ed Yuski. And Ed Yuski has these classes for people who fall down. And he was the first one who said to me, if you get dizzy when you get up and you get a little nauseous, he said, stay in bed. And All my exercises started with in bed. I would exercise for about a half hour before I even got up.
Sure.
And that was the first time I really realized I could change my body. My foot was numb, and I would exercise my toes. I didn't put tissue in between my toes to spread them out. I mean, they did crazy things, but he taught us if you fall down, how to get up. Don't panic was a big thing. Don't panic.
Yeah.
And the other thing is,
falls are brutal. Falls are brutal.
I couldn't even walk on a straight line.
Yeah. And the toe curling, you know, in Parkinson's, one of the dystonias or dyskinesias that they get is this toe curling, especially at bedtime. And it can be very painful too. And again, that's one of those things with exercise, or the proper exercise, that someone who specializes in Parkinson's exercise, it really is invaluable, because there is no drug to stop that.
Aerobics places too. And one day I'm standing on my toes and I'm putting my fingers here to hold up. So finally the woman said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm trying to uncurl my toes."
Yeah, exactly. And it becomes a challenge, believe me. It's easier said than done. And there are so many other things that, you know, they're subtle and they're non-motor symptoms, but they're things you'll have to learn to deal with on a daily basis. And the only way you can is staying in the best shape that you possibly can. Diet and exercise are crucial. You know, and there's all types of diets that they recommend, but usually these Mediterranean type diets where, you know, minimizing on the meats and focusing on the fruits and grains and fibers and things like that, they're very important for a whole host of reasons. Constipation is another huge problem with Parkinson's. And here again, this is where exercise plays a crucial role, because there's only so many drugs we can use for constipation. And it affects so many things, aside from just making you feel uncomfortable, but it has a huge role in how those drugs are absorbed from your intestinal tract, and keeping your pelvic muscles in great shape, good, strong shape, and your pelvic floor and your core muscles. And these are exercises that Tammy will definitely, I know she focuses on this, and it really does help. You'll see a huge difference once you get those core muscles and that pelvic floor muscle in better shape. It's going to make life a lot easier for you. It really will.
Yeah.
It also, it actually, I found it relaxed. The levodopa really relaxed my body. I'm walking better, and my toes don't curl up now. My body is much more relaxed. And
you know, it's touted to be used for the three major symptoms, which is slowness, stiffness, and tremor. But I'll tell you, the one wild card there is the tremor. It seems to work better on the slowness and the stiffness. If you have tremor, it's a wild card. Some patients think that it does wonders for them, and other patients get very little results from that with the levodopa. But we have other drugs to treat tremor if you're not getting any success out of that. But definitely slowness and stiffness with levodopa. It's the gold standard, the best of the best as far as that's concerned.
Okay, so I need to interrupt because our time is about up. So this is such a great conversation, but we have to actually get ready for a class. All right.
Even better. I love that.
So, we can pick this conversation up. I'm so glad that it's just fun to dialogue. It's fun to get people doing a round table, because it's really cool to know that you're not alone. And I know that's something that Mary enjoys, meeting other people.
I'm really happy I live in the Villages, because I would not get this help anywhere else.
Yeah. And Bob, you are such a valuable resource. So thank you for being so generous with your knowledge.
My pleasure. It was a delight talking to you, Mary. I just really, you made my day, I have to say.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm so glad there are people here that really want to help us. It's amazing to me.
I'm glad too, and I'm glad people, even Tammy too. I mean,
I refer to you when I talk to the ladies as Farmer Bob.
Okay, my new nickname.
Farmer Bob.
All right.
Thanks for
joining. All right, guys, take care. It was nice talking. Nice meeting you, Mary.
Bye.
Bye bye.